while since I've done one of these visual novels, because I was going back to Steins Gate, but I don't know. I was just I've been in between games and working on more than one game at a time. Which one of us is more obvious? That's what Ito was about to say before he stopped himself. Go away, Fry. That's my cat. Normally it was impossible to imagine Kurusu not doing her job. For a while after that, Kurusu focused intently on her work. Ito didn't have much else to do, so he just watched her. Oh, never mind, I'm not doing a voice, this is just a narration. When he looked carefully, he could see the small dark spots under her eyes. She probably hadn't slept. Then Ito realized for the first time, Kurusu had probably come to the club room to see if either of them had contacted him. With all the preparations that were going on, there were no other reason for her to be there. There was no other reason, excuse me. Kurusu pressed down hard on one final key as she finished her talk. Then suddenly an unpleasant sound filled the room. Go away, Fry.
Nah.
He looked over and saw that Kazuki was nibbling on dried squid as she played her game, oblivious to everything around her. Ito had seen her come in after Kurusu had started her work. He thought she might say hello, but knowing her, maybe not. He'd also seen her start to play their game. He'd been trying not to bring it up, but that was clearly impossible now. She must have been concentrating pretty hard. Her gaze was constant and steady. Ito sighed.
こいつはいつでもマイペースだな。他人に興味がないのかね。
そんなわけないでしょ。この子は他の人よりほんの少しだけ自分が強いの。
にしたってよ。
She's in the same club as them, he started to say, but Kurusu stopped him with a raised hand. She looked down at Kazuki's. She looked down at Kazuki's game screen. Excuse me.
そうでもなかったみたい。
Kurusu chuckled and took off Kazuki's headphones.
カズキ、私はゲームやらないから詳しいことはわからないけど。この家の壁に向かって延々と火の玉出してるのは何か意味があるの？すごい勢いで燃え広がってる。
Kazuki looked back at the screen with a stunned expression on her face. She yanked the headphones out of Kurusu's hands and quickly put them on, then started to pound at the keyboard.
"落ち着きなさい。というかその煩わしいスルメ飲み込むか出すかしなさい。行儀悪い。
Kazuki may or may not have heard her because she struggled with her game for a while. And then... she froze, like a toy whose batteries had run out. The squid she'd been chewing fell out of her mouth and landed on the desk. She stared at it for almost 30 seconds, as if something impossible had happened. Then she silently stood up and staggered over to the shelf where he kept her electric coffee maker. Where we kept it, excuse me. Her face had turned pale.
Kazuki? 大丈夫か? コーヒ
She's adorable.
ー入れてくれるのか？
Kazuki nodded in answer to Ito's second question, and started to make coffee with shaking hands. She made Kurusu her usual with 2 cubes of sugar, and gave Ito a coffee mixed with milk. Then she made a cup for herself, black, but didn't drink a drop. Her forehead slammed into the desk with a thud, and she became so quiet that it was impossible to tell if she was breathing.
ね。
Kurusu looked at Ito for agreement as she cleaned up Kazuki's squid.
いや、そうか？
He took a sip from his coffee, not sure what to think. To him, none of this made any sense. Kurusu didn't say another word as she drank her coffee.
と
Ito looked up at the blank ceiling and decided that this was as good a time as any to ask. It wasn't that it was wrong, but it still felt kind of awkward.
あのさ、
何？
あいつがこんなに事件に入れ込んでるのって何か理由があんの？
Kurusu froze. She lowered her gaze as if searching for her answers in her coffee cup.
伊藤君こそずいぶん事件に対して熱心じゃない？
She'd be trying to change the subject.
俺はこういうのが好きな人だから。
こういうの？
猟奇的な事件。でも昨日みたいに現場に忍び込むっていうのは。
That was going too far, he continued. Kurusu silently took another sip of coffee. Her coffee. It's been 2 weeks, guys. She seemed to be staring at a single point in the distance, lost in thought. It was clear that while she was seeing the things around her, none of them held any meaning to her. Looking at her scared Ito a little. Was it really that big a deal?
別に言いたくなければ。
そういうわけじゃない。きっと基本的には伊藤君と同じ。タクルも好きだもの、こういうの。それに危なっかしいところに首を突っ込みたがるのも昔からだし。
Ah, I see, Ito said.
小学校からだっけ？あいつが副部長と一緒に暮らすようになったの。
ええ。正確には被災して少し経ってからだから、中学生に上がるか上がらないかの時だけど。
Oh, cool. Flashback. Kurusu and Miyashiro were both what people called earthquake orphans. They'd both been in the 6th grade when they'd lost their parents to the earthquake. Since they had no relatives to take them in, they'd been sent to the small group home, the localized small-scale children's welfare facility's Alba dormitory. Kids like them weren't common in Shibuya these days, but they weren't exactly rare either. Well, I'm sorry, that statement doesn't make any sense. Rare or whatever. Nishiro had been so badly injured during the earthquake that he'd been put in a coma. He was still in that coma when he arrived at the dorms. The head of the dorm was also the head doctor at the Alba clinic downstairs. For a while, that was where he was kept. Kurusu had taken care of literally all his needs. There were 4 kids at the facility. Kurusu and Miyashiro were the oldest. Since her birthday was earlier than his, she dubbed herself the oldest of 4 siblings and had volunteered to take care of the other 3. Even back then, Miyashiro had a habit of being curious and getting into trouble.
だいたい天の弱だしね。みんなとは違うってよく言ってるでしょ。そんなことはないのに。
She spoke like a parent worried for her child's future.
でも結局あの子は。
お疲れ様。おや、クルス君も来てたのか。
先生、連絡があったんですか？
The club advisor, Wakui, was quite relaxed as he came into the room. Kurusu quickly stood up and rushed over to him. He nodded and motioned for her to calm down.
ついさっきね。
大丈夫そうでしたか？
I'm gonna play this later when I have more